Hello everyone, my name is Austin and today I just wanted to talk about how a rifle actually works. The first thing I want to talk about is the components of a rifle round. Then I want to go into the parts of a rifle that actually activate this chemical reaction inside of the rifle round. And then lastly, I just want to mention how a bullet is actually able to fly through the air in a controlled manner without being just tumbling through the air. So like I said, the first thing I want to talk about is actually the components of a rifle round. So here I have a rifle round. As you can see, there are two really defining characteristics about this round. One, you have the first portion, which is actually a little bit different color. This is actually the bullet. So a lot of people actually think this entire thing is the bullet, which is false. So just this first portion is the bullet. Then the main portion of this round is actually called the shell, which contains the propellant, which is usually like a powder form. Then as you can see at the back of the bullet, there's this silver component. It's very circular right in the center. That's called the primer. So the primer is actually what causes like a very mini explosion at the back of this shell that ignites the primer, causing the big explosion, which will then send the bullet out the barrel. So, and I have another little illustration here that can help explain this a little bit. So here's here's what the inside of a bullet actually, or the inside of a rifle round actually looks like. So here, this is the bullet. It kind of goes inside the shell and is held in there, and this is completely solid. So here is the shell. This is hollow, and these little dots are actually the propellant. So there's quite a bit of propellant in here, and you can kind of see the difference between this and the primer. So this at the back, this little circular thing at the very back of this round is called a primer, which causes that small explosion that gets the propellant activated, which then sends the bullet through the rifle. So hopefully that kind of helps illustrate what I was actually talking about with the inside of the bullet. It's kind of hard to talk about it when you actually can't see the inside and the components inside. So next thing I want to talk about is the parts of a rifle that actually will cause this reaction to take place. So I just have a pretty standard rifle right here. This is called the bolt. This is actually the portion of the rifle that pushes the bullet into the chamber and locks it into place. So that's very important in the process. We want to make sure that the bullet is secured before firing. Then, by far the most important part of activating the bullet is the trigger. So once the trigger is pulled, there's a firing pin inside of the rifle, which then targets the primer in that rifle round. And once that is hit, once that activates, it causes that little mini explosion, which activates the propellant. So really those are the main portions of a rifle that really set this chemical reaction into action and gets that bullet firing out the end of the barrel. So the only other thing I had to talk about was the rifling of a barrel, which actually causes the bullet to fly through the air in an efficient and controlled way. So if you can imagine like a football is actually very similar in the shape that a bullet is. So they're both pointy at the end and then they kind of get bigger through the middle. So they kind of have like a really aerodynamic shape. But if you can imagine throwing a football through the air without spinning it, it's just going to completely tumble. So even though it has slightly good aerodynamic characteristics about it, it needs some spin to actually make it controlled. It needs to have the mass of the outside of the ball being rotated outwards so that it can actually fly through the air straight. It's the same exact concept with a bullet. So the way that a bullet is actually able to spin as it goes out of a rifle is all contained within the barrel itself. So the barrel is actually what you would call rifled, which is where there are grooves in the inside of the barrel that the bullet will actually hit on its way out. It's kind of like a screw, and once that bullet is pushed through, it screws its way out the end, causing a very fast spin, which then controls not only like the speed of the bullet, but mainly just the accuracy, going straight and making sure it doesn't tumble through the air. So in this presentation, I've talked about the components of a rifle round, the parts of a gun that actually it starts that chemical reaction inside of the shell, and how a bullet is actually able to travel through the air in an efficient manner. So I hope this is very educational for you, and I hope you learned a lot from it, and I hope you have a nice day as well. Thank you.